Hey traders, Andrew here from Epic Markets, and in this video we're going to go through and look at something called the SuperTrend indicator. Now the name kind of gives it away. The SuperTrend indicator is particularly good at identifying trend, whether the market's going up or whether the market's going down. We're going to go through and show you how to find it inside the trading platform, how to add it onto your charts, change some of the settings, but most importantly, we're going to go through and show you a trading strategy that you can actually use, whether you trade the smaller time frames, 3, 5, 10-minute charts, or if you prefer to be on the higher time frames like 4-hour and daily, this strategy, this approach will work for you. Now, please make sure that you smash the like button. It helps us no end with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, it makes sure that people just like you get to watch videos just like this one. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can click the little subscribe button underneath the video right now. And don't forget the little notification bell as well, because that way we can notify you every single time that we release a video designed to turn you into a better trader. So let's dive into it right after this. The SuperTrend is a great indicator to visually identify the trend, but it works far better in volatile markets that like to move. In range-bound markets, it chops around something wicked. Now, SuperTrend itself uses ATR and over a certain number of candles to get calculated. And if we look at the green dots here, you can see at first glance, SuperTrend looks phenomenal. The red dots here meaning a downward trend. When it fits and the market's moving the right way, SuperTrend looks incredible. But when you go and chop and change over to something like the Euro USD, which right now is far more sideways, you can see it's not quite having the same effect that you're after. So that's the first thing to understand. The clue is in the name. SuperTrend does phenomenally well in trend. SuperTrend is not called super sideways and does not do very well in a sideways market. Now, jumping back onto dollar yen, let's make sure that you know how to add this onto your charts. So you see this F at the top here, top of our platform, F, go to trend, and you'll see SuperTrend already in there. Now, if you're using a platform like MT4 where SuperTrend isn't even in there, just go ahead to our platform, ct.epic.markets. We've got the SuperTrend pre-built in our web-based platform. So rather than you having to mess around trying to find and install some kind of a third-party SuperTrend indicator, you can just go to our platform at ct.epic.markets and get access to our SuperTrend indicator there built into the platform. So when you click on that, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I've already got it on the chart, you're presented with this little window here. And you'll see the two main options there are periods and multiplier. The periods, if you change that, not a lot really happens, to be quite frank, but the multiplier is really what makes the biggest difference to the green and the red dots. The multiplier is the multiplier of ATR and essentially controls the distance that the price is away from the price. The dots are away from the price. So as I increase this number, you'll see they move further away. As I decrease this number, you'll see they get quite a lot closer. Now the default is 3. So we're going to leave it there. And the only change that I've made to this, other than the well, apart from playing with that there, I've made the dots a little bit bigger to make it easier for you to see. And I've changed the color to a brighter green from default, purely so it stands out when you're looking at it perhaps on a cell phone right now. So with this SuperTrend indicator, we are predominantly wanting to use it as a trend filter. You don't necessarily want to be jumping into trades with this. In fact, if you trade what's called the SuperTrend flip, every time it goes from red to green you buy, or green to red you sell, that's not profitable. So if you buy every time it turns green, or sell every time it turns red, you'll lose money. You don't want to do that. Instead, if you're using the SuperTrend on one chart, you want to use it as a filter to go, right, I only want to buy in this upward trend, or I only want to sell in this downward trend. Now, if you're intent on using the SuperTrend and you want to execute entries off of the SuperTrend as well, the smart way to do it is to have two different time frames. So you want to have a SuperTrend on a smaller time frame and a SuperTrend on a higher time frame. So on our platform here, what I've done is just loaded up dollar yen and I've synced them together. Now I realize if you're on MT4, changing charts is not quite as easy. On MT4 you have to change them both, but on our platform you can link symbols together. And I'm just going to go to free chart mode so that I can see both the 3-minute and the 15-minute. Now we're going to be using the 15-minute down the bottom here as a trend filter and use the 3-minute here at the top for entries. So we've got a SuperTrend on them both. What I am going to do is just add on the crosshair sync so that you can see exactly where my cursor is on both charts, which is very useful. If we go back to the beginning of this trend down here, this is the beginning of the upward trend, and let's just find it on the 3-minute chart. Here we go. Okay, so this is our first real opportunity to trade. So we have the green dot here, meaning that we're in upward trend, and we have the green dot here, meaning we're in upward trend. So the way that you really want to trade SuperTrend is to trade on the smaller time frame in the same direction as the higher time frame. And that's the reason why I've got this section at the bottom here significantly smaller. So we're going to only take buy signals in this upward trend, and we're going to look at them through here. Now, if we take the buy trades every single time they cross over, and we wait until they change color again as an exit, I know this is a 3-minute chart, but that's taking from 5:15 until 8:30. So you're sitting in front of the screen for 3¼ hours with that trade. Watching. So a big issue that you've got if you are trading this cross from green to red and back again is that you're going to be in front of the screen for a long time. That being said, it is profitable using multiple time frames. Higher time frame for trend and execute the trades off of the smaller time frame. Now, there's two different ways that you could choose to enter this. You could choose to enter as it closes above for the confirmed entry, which we'll look at right now. The trouble is with doing that is you always get a slightly later entry. So you'd be entering here and exiting when it crosses back over again. So a small losing trade. Here we'd be entering, and here would be exiting for a small winner. And here's the end of the day, market close over the weekend. Then we're getting back in again. So we're getting into the trade here and getting out of the trade here. Do you see how that looks like it would be a winning trade? The trouble is that if you only place the trades on the close of the candle when they're actually been confirmed, there's hardly any profit in that move. And then this one here is an absolute flyer. This is great. So we get into the trade here and we sit in front of the screen for about 8 hours and exit there. So I think you can see straight away that being in front of the screen for 7 or 8 hours watching some little candles move up and down is going to be, you've basically replaced one job with another. So we don't really want to be doing that. And while you can see these big winners are profitable, it's just not practical to trade the SuperTrend flip on anything other than a 10-second chart, which please don't do that, or a much higher time frame. So we understand straight away that if we're going to make this lifestyle friendly and trade inside of a couple of hours a day or less, then we're not going to be able to trade exactly when they cross over. So let's just go ahead and get rid of those drawings. Let's simplify things a lot more. So you'll place an order, and let's just drag that down. And what will happen is in real time, if you're sitting there watching this, as these red dots move lower and lower, you'll just click and drag. And then what you'll do is you'll drag your stop loss down to underneath the green dot. And I would give it a little bit of breathing room there. You'll see why as we go on. But a little bit of breathing room is not a bad thing. So maybe round it up on a 15-minute chart to the nearest pip or so. So add another pip underneath that. So 16.7. Let's make it 17.7. And in fact, just to make it easier for you guys to see, let's just zoom in a bit. That way then you can see everything is bigger now in the platform, and you can easily see that's the SL. And the way that you really want to trade this is with a 2-to-1 reward to risk. So we know that we're risking 17.7. So we're looking for, roughly speaking, 35 pip take profit. There we go. And that would be our entry, our stop loss. And at the point in which they've changed from red to green, we now have nothing else to do. This is happening without us while we're away from the screen doing other things, which is exactly the way it should be. So that's your first trade there. You win that one. Fantastic. Now, the next couple of trades, I'm not sure you're even going to take these for the simple reason you're going into the weekend. This is a Friday night, and you should be doing far more important things than sitting and trading on a Friday evening. So entering at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday is not really the best use of your time, just before market close. And you'll see that we have this very sideways patch as people are exiting positions, not a lot happening. You don't really ever want to be trading the last few hours on a Friday. So I am deliberately going to skip those because no one in their right mind would actually trade them. Now we have the next trade set up, and again, we'd have ourselves a buy order. And we're just going to place the entry order, again, just above, giving it a little bit of room. And our stop loss is going to be a tiny little one down here. Just underneath this green dot. So we're risking 3.2 pips. We're going to be looking for 6.4. Now, all of a sudden, by us doing this and going for a 2-to-1 take profit and entering as price breaks this line, we're getting decent reward to risk trades now, 2-to-1s. Whereas by buying when the close of the candle confirms it, you're so much later. Okay, so at this point here, we've had ourselves one win. And in fact, let's just mark this historically so you can see it. Let's just... That's where you're buying. That's your stop loss. And that's where you're hitting target up here. 2-to-1. 1-to-1, 2-to-1. That's where you hit target. And then the next one that's set up over here, we are getting into the trade with a stop loss just underneath, and we're hitting target very, very quickly there. It's actually so quick I can't even make this any smaller. So that's the 2-to-1 take profit there. It went 3.5 to 1, but you're getting it at 2-to-1. Now the next trade set up when we go from red to green again. So entering here, stop loss just underneath. And we're hitting target here. Even allowing for spread, you likely hit target there. And even if you didn't allow for spread, well, you hit 2-to-1 target somewhere through there. Now, here's the thing. It's going to be horrible to sit and watch these huge, big winning trades. The trouble is you can't be sat there on a 3-minute chart waiting for exactly when they cross over and exactly when they cross back again. It's hard enough just looking when they cross over the first time. So, bearing in mind, this is how many trades? One trade so far, which has done 2-to-1. We haven't traded going into market close. Next trade has done 2-to-1. Next trade has done 2-to-1. So far, this is working very well. So your next trade setup is over here. We've got ourselves the entry level, the stop loss, again, just underneath the green dot. And when it gets to this level here, that's when we hit take profit. So let's just drag it across so we can see. And sure enough, it takes a little bit longer than you'd like, but it gets to take profit. Now, I would rather sit there and watch these dots for an hour and get into the trade, rather than sit there from 11 a.m. till 4:30 until it crosses back over again. All right, and then we have our next trade set up over here somewhere. Let's have a look. This one looks like it's going to be, oh, this one's a winner as well. So let's just look at these so far. On a 3-minute chart, your stop loss has been 16, 17 pips, plenty. This one's been 6.5 pips, still fine. This one that's setting up over here now on a 3-minute chart is such a small stop loss that I don't think it's worthwhile trading. Okay, because your stop loss is going to be 1.5 or less pips. That's just not something you want to trade, because even on dollar yen where the spread's 0.2, it's still, the stop loss being 1.5 pips, you can blink and get stopped out. So that's not really a trade that you want to be taking. Had you taken it, it does look like it won. But if you allow a pip underneath, all of a sudden your stop loss is too big and this wouldn't win. So this one here, I'm just going to skip over it. It's such a small stop. No one's going to trade with a 1.5 pip stop loss. The next trade is here, which is a loser. So this is our first losing trade there. So entry, stop loss, and we get stopped out. Fine, it's going to happen. Next trade set up over here. We're going to go with the entry level, the stop loss level, 2-to-1 take profit. Very happy. Next trade set up. Stop loss underneath the green dot. 2-to-1 doesn't quite get there. There's a loser. Now let's just look at where we are now. It's the 12th of October. Let's just make sure that we actually add on the crosshair sync. And let's just make sure that we can see where we are. Right, so at this point now, can you see on the lower chart how it has now flipped over to red? So at this point, we're looking for short trades now throughout the rest of this chart. And so here now, when it green becomes red, that's when we're looking at getting into the trade. So let's just get rid of that crosshair tool. It's useful, but I don't need it all the time. So let's just turn it off. And right now we can see we've got this green here becoming red. That's when you're going to be getting into the trade. You're going to be shorting here with a stop loss just above that red dot, breathing room, remember. And your 2-to-1 take profit comes in very nicely a little bit later. And right now it's green on the 15-minute chart, green on the 3-minute chart. So you're waiting for it to go red, then green again. So there's a while to go before you get a trade on this particular symbol. Now, I have been through a few days there, all right? But if we just go through and look at this, zoom out a bit and actually look at the trades, we've had positive 2, positive 2, positive 2, positive 2. So 4 wins in a row. Followed by a loser. Then we've had positive 2, followed by a loser. So these 2 losses basically wiped out this 1 win. All the wins before that were pure profit. And can you see how we're in a bit of a sideways chop right now? That sideways chop is obviously where we expect SuperTrend to come unstuck and lose money, which is exactly what we're seeing here with a couple of losing trades. And then we go back into trend again now, and we have ourselves the next positive 2 winning trade. So that is a very good representation there for you of how you can choose to trade SuperTrend flips. Rather than just trading the flip on one time frame, trade the flip in the direction of the higher time frame, and that way you can actively put a take profit on your trades and you can really let them run to a decent take profit. Now, you could even go a step further. I've just used 2-to-1 here. You could go and look at 3-to-1s or 4-to-1s, because when we've got a trend like this, it's going to happen. The difference is when you go to something like Euro USD, which right now is a lot choppier, we're not going to have the same kind of big moves to trade. And let's just look at that. So this is euro dollar, they're synced together, and we've gone from green to red here. Let's just add that crosshair sync back on again so that we can see exactly when that was. Here. So you see how the vertical lines of the crosshairs match up? That's where on this lower chart here, where the green became red. That means over here on this 3-minute chart, that's when we're going to be trading. Now we can also see here that we've got some green and then some red again. So this is going to be good for us to look at. I'm going to zoom in so you can actively see it and go back to the beginning. Right. So let's zoom right in and make sure you can see exactly what's taking place. Green dots, green dots, green dots, green dots. You're waiting for them to become red. You're actually going to get triggered into the trade here. Now let's just turn that crosshair sync off again, because again, it is great for verifying where you are, but sometimes when I'm giving examples like this, it can get in the way. Can you see, if I zoom in, how this candle just sneaks through that dot and back up again? Okay, that is where you would get triggered into the trade, but you wouldn't have a red dot as a reference point yet because the red dot hasn't appeared. So you're going to have to go with an entry here and a stop loss above that high because you haven't got any red dots in place that you could possibly use. Okay, now you could use the previous one perhaps, but to play it safe, I've gone with that swing high point there because you get triggered in, there is no red dot to work with. The red dot at the time, flicking backwards and forwards, would probably have been somewhere around here realistically. So I've just put it behind there to play it safe, purely because this one got triggered, and it got triggered without the SuperTrend crisscrossing over. So we know that our 2-to-1 take profit is when it gets to this line. So let's just simplify this a little bit and get rid of all these extras. So that's our 2-to-1 take profit. Fantastic. Winning trade. And this is Eurodollar 15-minute and 3-minute charts. Even with spreads, I'm just going across, look, spreads are tiny, 0, 0.1. You're comfortably going to hit target there. Now the next trade setup is a bit more straightforward. We'll zoom out a little bit. But here we get triggered and we have a red dot to work with because it has actually flipped over at that point in time. So entry level, stop loss just above. You can see we get nowhere near our take profit. This is a losing trade. So far we've had 1 2-to-1 winner and 1 loser. And that's in this small little downward trend here. And now we've got this small little upward trend to work with. And that small little upward trend to work with, we have up, 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 down, down, down. And this pullback here is this pullback here. Okay, so that's what we're working with right now. When it goes from red to green, that's when we're getting in. So we'd actually be placing our order and what you'd be doing through here is you'd be dragging it down as the dots keep going low, dragging it down, dragging it down, dragging down, dragging down until you get filled on the position. Your stop loss is going to go just underneath the dot. We're risking 2 pips here, tiny, tiny, tiny stop for a 4 pip or so take profit, which it comfortably gets to in a few candles. And just looking at that on a Euro USD chart, 15-minute, which is choppy on the 15-minute, which would have hardly made you any money at all. And let me just prove it to you so you can see on a 15-minute why you don't want to trade the flip. Okay, so let's look at this on the 15-minute chart so you can see it. Let's just get rid of the crosshair tool. We don't need that anymore. And notice that if you took it short when the 15-minute flipped, you'd have sold here and you'd have exited here. Now that would have made you, pips-wise, about 5 pips. But your stop loss would be something in the region of 12 pips. So it's a very, very, very small winning trade. And similarly, if we bought here and exited here as it crossed back over again, we're getting in with a 3 pip win, but an 11 pip stop. And that's horrible reward to risk. Whereas doing it this way with a 2-to-1 fixed take profit and using the 3-minute for the entry and the 15-minute for the trend, we've been able to have 2 winning trades at 2-to-1 reward to risk and just the one loser, which is a huge improvement over a couple of very, very small winners. So as a takeaway, you need to make sure that, one, you're going to be using the SuperTrend either as a trend filter or as a higher time frame trend filter, and then execute your trades on a smaller time frame. The second thing to remember is that the best way to trade this is to actually place the orders just above the dots, allowing for spread, rather than actively waiting for it to change over. Okay, and you can just use the swing low as a stop loss there, because you'll find there's not usually too much difference in them. Similarly here, if you didn't know exactly where to work with on your stop loss because the dot hadn't appeared yet, you could just put your stop loss underneath the swing low point. And the third thing is, adding a take profit makes this a set and forget system. You don't need to sit in front of the screen for hours a day watching green and red dots changing color. All you've got to do is move the order. When it flips, you place have your order in position, but you haven't got to watch it for the next few hours for the exit. You've got your take profit and you can walk away from the screen. And that is a huge improvement over watching some little red and green dots. Now, if you're struggling, you need a trading platform, go to ct.epic.markets, where you're going to be able to get access to our trading platform, our downloadable platform, our apps, and our web-based platform where SuperTrend is built in by default, and you're able to go and start trading this right away. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.